afternoon. It's a 7-day-a-week habit on News Talk 980 CKNW. Here's Charmaine DeSilva. Welcome back to CKNW Weekend. It was a story that got a bit of attention this week. Ethics filings from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's wife show that she has received a number of gifts and loans of high-end clothing, shoes, and jewelry from Canadian designers since her husband was sworn into office last year. And this is something that really has had a bit of a mixed reaction, if you will. There are some people, and I think this is the case, I'll call them the haters, that no matter what happens, when you have a politician you dislike, you're going to criticize or you're going to say this is a bad thing. And then you have other people who say, you know, wait a second, you know what, this is actually part of what perhaps Sophie Trudeau, as the Prime Minister's wife, should be doing, which is showcasing Canada, showcasing Canadian designers. And there's a question about, you know, what is the best way to go about doing this? Do you receive gifts? Do you buy it yourself to support Canadian designers? Or in some cases, something that has not actually been entered into these ethics filings is the fact that Sophie Trudeau receives loans. And so she wears things from Canadian designers to big events and then returns them. So this is something that certainly interested me because, and I'll say my view on this is, I think that this is exactly what she should be doing as the wife of Canada's Prime Minister, is promoting Canadian fashion, promoting Canadian designers. It's an industry that is growing in this country. Just like we promote Canadian art, we promote Canadian performers at state dinners and functions, we promote Canadian food, producers and growers and culinary, developments, if you will. Why would this be any different? And to talk a little bit more about this, I'm going to welcome into studio Crystal Carson, who is a Vancouver fashion stylist. And Crystal, part of what you do is you put together packages for celebrities and other people. And
yeah, I mean, I dress a number of different people and am involved in everything from, photo shoots to people walking red carpets and events. And I think your first example, like art, we promote artists. When you think about where the fashion industry comes from, I mean, it's a lot of that starving artist element that we come with creative minds and we want to get our work out there, but we can't afford to. The same way you would hang art on a wall and for people to see it at a known gallery, it's the same thing as dressing somebody in a beautiful like dress, suit, whatever it may be that you've created. It gets it out there. It gets you the exposure through someone who is representing the country and also just representing the nation, and it gives you the exposure. And I think it's amazing. I also think it's amazing that Canada finally has a woman in Parliament that is having an effect on such a large demographic from 20 to 60, where everyone all over the world is looking at her as an example and wanting to follow the way she looks and wanting to see what she's wearing, and it's affecting our industry.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, in American culture, you have the First Lady. We don't, Canada technically does not have a First Lady, if you will. We don't call the wife of the Prime Minister that. But, we have seen, especially I think when Michelle Obama came to the White House, there was a lot of focus on, what is she wearing? How, where can I buy that? And, that certainly hasn't always been the case. There have been First Ladies who've had that sort of effect, Jackie O, for example. Yeah. But it's not always the case. Nobody was saying, what is Laura Bush wearing? I really want to have that.
Right.
Or maybe if they were, I just don't know these people. But, Canada has that history as well, where, we have from time to time had spouses of prime ministers and other politicians who've had that sort of impact, maybe not in the past decade, but she certainly is. So is it a bad thing to use that platform if people are watching to highlight something that could be good for Canada's economy? I don't think so.
No, I don't either. I actually, I reached out to her stylist, Jessica Mulrooney, and asked her just straight up, what has the effect been like? Have you seen any real response that we could validate this with? And she said it's been amazing for the designers because it has generated sales for them internationally that they weren't expecting. And one of the really great things that happened as well is the CAFA Awards, Canadian Art and Fashion Awards, have in its third year now, and they just launched a fashion directory for the demand for Canadian designers now, and having a portal to find them. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's been an industry practice for so long in the fashion industry. I mean, this has been happening for celebrities, musicians, for years and years. And for loans to be given out again, it's not even like it's coming out of the designer's pocket to be expensing something for someone who could afford to buy it. It's simply an opportunity to showcase their work. And I think that should be promoted. And I think we should be supporting that. I mean, it's the arts in Canada.
Now, there are going to be people who say, Sophie Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, these are not people who are hurting for dough. That, they can afford to buy these clothes. They certainly, Sophie Trudeau was certainly well dressed before her husband became Prime Minister of Canada. It's not like, she was running around town in sweatpants.
Yeah.
So why does she not just buy her own clothes and do that instead of relying on what could be seen as either gifts or donations or loans?
That was actually something else I asked Jessica, and she said that she does buy the majority of her clothes, but that there is a certain percentage that are loaned. And I can speak to this, and I think everybody on social media can, that when you go out in the public for some of these high profile events,
the White House State Dinner,
right, you're only going to be seen in that outfit once, right? And so it's better as a stylist, I would tell my client to invest in the pieces you're going to be able to wear continuously, and then to do the loans based on those high profile events. Lots of photography, the image is captured, the moment's captured, but you can't recycle those looks. And it's just like the red carpet for the Oscars. So, yes, she does purchase her clothes, but I mean, some instances it just doesn't make sense to be spending those kind of dollars. And I think that's just budget management for anybody, any professional, really.
How, you mentioned that Jessica Mulroney said that it certainly has had an impact on Canadian designers in a big way. Are you able to sort of give some insight on what type of impact that is, or what you think it could be?
Well, I think one is definitely generating sales. I mean, a lot of the designers that I've worked with, based mainly out of Toronto, unfortunately, it doesn't expand out to the West that often. They do gorgeous gowns, and it has definitely brought that into the limelight. Some of these high-profile events that she has been over-the-top dressed in beautiful gowns. I'm trying to remember the name of the designer right now. But I think that it definitely has given the exposure to a market that wouldn't typically see them, right? Because the media is picking it up. You're seeing the response even by the Americans to loving our Prime Minister now. And so I think that there's all eyes are on us, and it's a good opportunity.
So, it's funny because on one hand, I get it. I get why this makes some people uncomfortable, because it's not something that we have seen, certainly not with Lorraine Harper. It's not something that we're used to in Canada, is having that type of attention on the wife of a politician. But Crystal, I'm going to agree with you that there are some benefits here for the economy. So let's put it aside, put your politics aside. If you're out there, it's a very much, she's not a politician. She's the wife of a politician, but she has a role. She stands by him at these state dinners and attends these events. If she could use that to do something good for the Canadian economy, culture, then I guess that's what she should do.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, as these designers, their ateliers become busier, they're employing more students. I mean, we have great programs at Ryerson in the education system where a lot of people historically have had to leave, just like Hollywood and entertainment. We've had to leave Canada to be celebrated or to be acknowledged, and then we can come back. But for us to be able to stay in Canada and be able to run a successful fashion design house or be a stylist, I know even for myself, it's coming up into like 15, 16 years I've been doing it. And I remember just learning about it when I first started, and it was just being acknowledged, from being wardrobe to being a stylist. So we're quite far behind, and I think that, not even comparing it to North America, but when you look at the royal family, I mean, all eyes are always on the princess and what she's wearing. Fashion is a very important staple in their hierarchy and in their culture, and I think it just translates over to us over time.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Crystal, for joining us in studio. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
That is Crystal Carson. She is a Vancouver fashion stylist. It's her job to put together outfits and plans and gift bags for celebrities, to dress them, to style them. And we've been talking about Sophie Trudeau, and this conversation about what is appropriate for the wife of the Prime Minister to accept in terms of loans, of clothing, high-end clothing. Is this selfishness on her part, or is it doing something good for Canada's economy? I've put my view out there, which is, you know what, if she is getting this attention and it helps Canadian designers and it gives jobs to Canadians, that is a good thing. In my book, personally, I actually prefer that she gets a loan as opposed to a gift. But what are your thoughts on it? Why don't you give me a call if you have something to say, 604-280-9898 or star 9898 on your cell phone. You can also call our buzz line, 604-331-BUZZ. You can tweet us at CKNW or email me, Charmaine at CKNW.com. We're going to take a bit of a break and we'll be back with some of your thoughts after this. Thanks so much, awesome. Crystal.